I think we can almost start. I'm not a podium person. I'm not a mic stand person. We're tea partiers, right? We don't use podium. We just yell mostly, right? I'm Dr. Gina Loudon. I am from San Diego, California, where there are no freedoms. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm originally from the Midwest and the South, and so you'll catch a little more of that in me than my new home of San Diego that I've only been in for just a year. But anyway, I am one of the 100 founding members of the National Tea Party. I'm not affiliated with any particular group, but I have done projects with every one of them for sure. Most recently, I hosted CPAC for Tea Party Patriots, but I'm affiliated with all the groups, and no, I'm not with any national groups. So I wanted to make that clear right off the bat. I'm a radio and television personality and culture warrior because I have 5 amazing children that I'm homeschooling that hopefully will have a liberty left or two by the time they're actually adults. And so I'm moderating the panel today, and we're going to have a question and answer period afterwards. So I'm going to ask the speakers, even though we agreed on a little longer, I'm going to ask the speakers to keep it closer to 8 minutes today, just so that we have plenty of time for fielding questions, because the Tea Party is all about the grassroots, right? Not about the speakers. So anyway, we're going to keep with that theme today. And I'm going to allow each of the panelists to kind of do an introduction of themselves, even though I had to write that all down. I'm going to just go ahead and let you do that. I think that might be the easiest thing. And then I'll add anything that I think needs to be added. Thank you for being here, and thank you so much for what you do. Tea Party's nothing without you guys, as you know. So go ahead.
Do you want us to start?
No, just introduce yourself first, and then we'll come back.
My name is Patricia Sullivan. I am here from Central Florida. I also homeschool. My oldest of 4 children actually happens to be here today, and I co-founded a Tea Party in March of 2009 in our neighboring Lake County.
I'm Jan Morgan with janmorganmedia.com. I am a Tea Party patriot. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. I'm an independent. Some people think I'm a libertarian. Basically, I am for all things conservative, and so I connect with a lot of different organizations and parties. But I speak at rallies around the country, primarily on the Second Amendment. I'm a strong Second Amendment advocate, activist. I'm a NRA certified firearms instructor and range safety officer, and so the Second Amendment is my main push. But I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about Tea Party stuff, so looking forward to that.
Hello, I'm Frank de Barona from Miami, Florida. I was born in Cuba. 52 years ago, I invaded Cuba at the Bay of Pigs. I was captured, sentenced to 30 years of hard labor. I was released, and I've been in the United States. I worked for the Miami-Dade County Public Schools, from teacher all the way to deputy superintendent. I worked 36 years in the school system. Then I became a professor at Florida International University, associate professor of social studies. I was the only one there that was not for Obama. And also, one of my colleagues, a Cuban American, worked for secret police in Cuba, Seguridad del Estado, as we call it in Cuba, reporting on the Cuban communities, now in a Miami jail. But he was a founding professor at FIU. I now work for an organization, the president is right here, Rolando Perez. Where are you, Rolando? Stand up so they can see you. Rolando Perez founded Bear Witness Central, which is an English website where I have written 11 articles. One of them you already have in your hands. I also work for Libertad USA. I have over 45 articles there in Spanish. I've written 3 books on Barack Obama. The last one, it's Obama or Romney, 480 pages, 38 pictures. I really know Obama very well, unfortunately. And I'm glad that you're here. I'm so proud to be speaking to patriots that are concerned about our nation's lack of liberty and the way we're heading. We're heading towards Marxism connected with Islam. That's where we're headed. Islam, an unholy alliance with Marxism, is being implemented by our president. Thank you.
And Frank is going to be, I keep forgetting this. Frank is going to be our first speaker. And with the way we set this up today, we're not exactly in the order. We just wanted to keep you on your toes. Frank is going to be our first speaker. He's going to talk a little bit about the history of basically the Patriot movement. And then Patricia is going to talk about the current state of the Patriot movement. And then Jan is going to talk about going forward. And then I'm going to fill in any gaps. And then you are going to get your questions answered from, I think probably most all of us have helped to be organizers and activists at some different points. So Frank, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Gina. Basically, I'm going to talk about the Hispanics and the Tea Party movement in the age of Obama. Many people think that because the Tea Party is a conservative movement, Hispanics are not involved or have no role in it or not they want to be involved in it. And this is partially true. And the reason is that most of the Hispanic nation, and by the way, they say there are 50 million, it's actually 55 million Hispanics when you count the island of Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States. You have 4 million Puerto Ricans in that island, plus 50 some in the United States. It's 55 million Hispanics and growing very fast. And as many people have said, there's no way we can win elections unless we teach the Hispanics conservative policies, and it's very difficult to reach them because the Hispanic media is pro-Obama. What do the Hispanics watch? Telemundo, Univision, or liberal radio. And just like American people who listen to the established media that's completely pro-Obama, with the exception of the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, and a few conservative radio like Rush Limbaugh and so forth, the whole nation, as well as the Hispanics, are receiving propaganda from Barack Obama. So this is a major problem. In addition to that, most of the elected leaders, Mexican Americans and Puerto Rican leaders who are elected into Congress, they're either Marxists, they're socialists, or they're extreme leftists. All of these people, with the exception of the Cuban Americans, I'll talk about it in a second, but all of these people belong to the Democratic Progressive Caucus that was founded by a Marxist U.S. senator by the name of Bernie Sanders from Vermont. And at one point, that Progressive Democratic Caucus used to play the Communist International song in that website until someone told them, let's not deceive people, let's take it away, so they don't know who we are. And that's unfortunately the elected Hispanic leaders. One of them from New York, Jose Serrano, wants to trash our Constitution. And he wants Barack Obama to run indefinitely for president. He wants to do away with the Constitution. And also he's a friend of the bloody dictator Fidel Castro, a friend of Chavez, a friend of all the Marxists in Latin America. And unfortunately, this is what the Hispanics have as leaders in Congress. The exception to that are the Cuban Americans, that even the Democrat Cuban Americans are anti-communist. We have a senator from New Jersey, Senator Menendez, and a congressman from New Jersey, Alvio Sirio. They're Democrats, but they're anti-communist. And they work closely with the Republicans in Miami, Florida. Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, who at one point was the head of the Foreign Relations Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives. And they work closely with Mario Diaz-Balart, and they work closely, with Marco Rubio from Florida, as well as Ted Cruz from Texas. So this is part of the problem that we have, that the leaders that are with the exception of the Cuban Americans, the leaders that the Hispanics have are socialists. They belong to the Puerto Rico, to the Socialist Party there, and that's what they listen to. And in addition to that, they have the media, the Spanish media, that's completely pro-Obama. So that's part of the problem that we're having, as well as, the entire nation that is misled by the president that we have, who is a community organizer trained by Alinsky, a communist Marxist, and he lies to the American people, and the American people don't realize who is in the White House. In addition to that, I want to mention this is quite important. This election was massive fraud committed, and in our website, we have a big section on election fraud. But let me tell you something that you may not know until right now. From a Venezuelan reporter, he has a website on the Smartmatic machines that are used in Venezuela. And they rig the elections in Venezuela each and every time. Well, the software from those machines were used in the United States in 2012 in 17 states and the District of Columbia. 34% of the U.S. electorate voted with the software of the Smartmatic machines from Venezuela, and the elections was rigged. Romney had in Florida a 7-point lead a week before the election. 7 points. The Miami Herald, which endorsed Obama, the Tampa Tribune, and the Nixon Dixon poll gave Romney Florida with 7 points. He was ahead in Virginia with 2 points, 1 point ahead in Colorado. I mean, he was winning in the battleground states. In Ohio, he was the same with Obama, and yet he lost Florida, 50.5. It was fraud in Florida, as it was in the rest of the nation, as it was in 2008. And until we do away with the electronic machines, we will never have democracy in the United States, because all of them are fixed in 30 seconds. You put a virus in there, the virus doesn't come alive until the day of election, and the virus disappears the last hour of the election. I have a friend of mine that works in Palm Beach County as a poll worker, and in his precinct, 200 people voted, and yet they reported 400 people voting. And he complained to the election supervisor in Palm Beach County, and he complained to the Secretary of State of Florida in letters because he was there as a witness, and he received no response. So until we do away with those machines, until we force everybody, 50 states, to show a picture ID, we will never have democracy in the United States. It's gone now. It's really gone.
Well, you really were quick. You did a good job. All right. Patricia, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to build a little bit on the history and then tell you a little bit about why we can have some hope right now and going forward with what we're currently in, especially in the state of Florida, but really in the nation. In 2009, in the spring of 2009, when we just heard the word Tea Party for the first time in the current meaning, I was compelled, not knowing what it was, and sharing with my husband, I need to have a tea party. We need to have a tea party. What's a tea party? I'm not really sure. I just know, and I knew it was the Holy Spirit within me compelling me to have a tea party. The beauty of that is that it was happening across America. And we could feel that. And the confirmation of that compulsion was on September 12th of 2009. Was anyone in this room in DC on September 12th in 2009? And if you were there, and even if you weren't there, just the event of over 1 million people coming
2.2.
from across America on that day, in my mind, was confirmation that the Lord had indeed put a call upon people across this nation to rise up and act. With that confirmation, we should absolutely be empowered. We should be empowered to hold our elected officials accountable, to not revere them, but to hold them accountable. Now, just as Scripture says in regards to spiritual gifts, there are a variety of gifts, but one Spirit. There are a variety of ministries, but one Lord. And there are a variety of effects, but one God. You know, we're gifted with our spiritual gifts by the Holy Spirit. The Lord calls us each individually into ministries, but the effect of what we do belongs to God. That's His responsibility. So knowing that across America, people are rising up, holding elected officials accountable, and we're doing it in a variety of different ways that hopefully we're all going to respect one another for the different ways that we're being called to do that, then there should be hope that God is going to fulfill the effects as long as we're available and we do what He is calling us to do. So the Tea Party is not just individual people, but I hope you would agree with me that it's also it's a mindset. It's in the heart. It's this freedom that we're going to keep fighting for, even if folks were to say the Tea Party is dead, even if there aren't rallies on street corners anymore. I know you know we have not gone away, but we have dug in. And we are making change, positive change. Here in the state of Florida, for example, we have a special election up in the Panhandle that'll take place on May 15th. There is a gentleman who ran out of the Tea Party movement for Congress in 2010, and now he's running for State House, Mike Hill, out of the Tea Party movement. A great patriot. And you know what? He's going to win. He will win. And that's one more Tea Party person who's going to be in office. I also ran for Congress in 2010. I did not get the seat I was running for, but you know what? God called me to run. He didn't necessarily call me to win. And from that, having been able to run a campaign and know that, now he has me working with candidates to help them to go through, well, you've got to think about this, you've got to think about that, you've got to reach out here, you've got to do that. And so that's just another ministry that he has us involved in. And so each one of us in our community have responsibilities, now that we've had this calling to the movement, to fulfill. So what's another one that's going on currently in the state of Florida? Well, who's aware of Common Core?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We hate it.
Yes. Well, a little background. Shocking, our Florida legislators really didn't know what was in these bills that they were passing. And here's another one for accountability. We have a wonderful man who was a good governor who is pushing Common Core onto our legislators. And last week, when some of our leadership in the House took a step back and said, whoa, why didn't anyone tell me this was in here? Well, you're supposed to read the bill, but okay, we told you now. And so when they started to backpedal, started to think, well, how can we do this? Can we put an 18-month moratorium on these bills, and so that we can just find out a little bit about what's going on and not implement it right away? Governor got wind of that. And he got his superintendents and lobbyists into a meeting and doubled down. Go out to the legislators. We're pushing this through. He hired Mr. Bennett for our state to implement Common Core, and he isn't backing down. Well, Tea Party really got behind Governor Scott in 2010, didn't we? But you know what? We aren't in a covenant relationship with our elected officials. If they turn on their principle, we can hold them accountable, or we can replace them if they don't listen to the people they represent. So now here we are in Florida. So what's going on currently? We've got some elected officials that we put in office who are pushing Common Core, and who actually the governor called the people who our legislators were hearing from, those are radicals. Those are crazy people. Those are the people that put him in office. So we're going up there Tuesday. Randy Osborne from Marion County, who's been taking the lead on this, has proposed a rally. And if y'all are available on Tuesday at 1:30, I'd like to meet you up at the Capitol, because we're going to have a rally, because those legislators need to know we are not crazy people. Dress professionally. Get up there, give them your business card. There will be talking points. Because this, if we're going to have a future for our children, and although I'm a homeschooling mother, I grieve for those in our government schools. And if we are going to have a foundation that we can build righteousness upon, we must not hand our children over to the government. And this must be stopped. And we can do that. But we need people to visit these offices. So this is part of the ongoing movement of being engaged, being active, holding our elected officials' feet to the fire, and when they don't respond, we replace them. And just as Representative Pierce said so wisely last night on the panel, when asked, how do we get our congressmen and women to relate to the Hispanic community? Well, you know what? They've got to relate before they get up there.
Right.
We have to put people in office who understand the issues before they get in office. It's too late when they're there. So, in my heart, knowing that there was a calling on people across America, that we were all given our different missions and ministries to fulfill across America, now we just keep being available to do the work. And I'd like to add one thing. In my North Lake Tea Party, I used to hear, I don't hear it anymore, but I used to hear, because we have a lot of folks who are a bit older than me, retired individuals, and they ask, where are the young people? Where are the young people? Let me tell you why they don't ask that anymore. Because I say to them, most of the young people were educated in government schools, and that happened on your watch. You show up. You take back what was lost on your watch. Let's re-educate, and then we'll have the young people. But don't ask me where the young people are, because they were trained in schools, in curriculum that came to pass, and it wasn't by their hand. They're subject to it. It's our job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are y'all going to take questions afterwards, or can we ask you a quick one now?
We're going to take them afterwards if you
Okay.
can remember
Okay,
it.
thanks.
Sorry.
For those of you who came in late, I'm Jan Morgan, or later than we originally started, and you see a lot of people kind of filtering in. Before I go into what I wanted to say, how many of you were here last night and heard my speech last night? I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry, but my commission today from Gina and this group was to rally the troops. So you're going to hear some of the same thing today, because that's what I'm supposed to do here today. One of the things that I hear, and I speak at rallies all over this country. I've spoken at a rally of 3,000 people in New York not too long ago. I've spoken at a rally in Chicago. All over the country. I've traveled. And something that I'm hearing from patriots, when I say patriots, I don't mean just Tea Party people. I mean conservative, God-fearing Americans, people who believe in the same America that our founding fathers founded on this soil. People who believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. People who want us to get back to the constitutional republic that we were meant to be. That's what I mean when I say patriots. And I'm listening to these people all over the country. And after President Obama, after it was apparent that he was going to get a second term, the tone started changing at the rallies. Fewer people were showing up. People were getting discouraged and feeling overwhelmed. In fact, some people even came on my social media pages and said, it's done. America's done. It's over. Might as well pack our things and head for the hills, and wait underground to see what happens, because we've lost. And I understand feeling overwhelmed. I was pretty upset the night Obama was elected too. I was in a coma for about 15 minutes and then I got out of it. 15 minutes. I was lying there on the floor watching the returns, and when it was apparent he was winning, my jaw dropped, and I thought, this is a nightmare. I started pinching myself. Really, 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 is this happening in America? Seriously? It is overwhelming, and what we are up against is monumental because, folks, we are where we are not because Barack Obama won the presidency of the United States first term and he was handed the presidency the second term through fraudulent elections. That's not why we are where we are. We've been moving this direction for decades, and it has occurred under your watch, and yours, and mine. And as Patricia so eloquently put it, our kids are where they are. And by majority, many of them are lost because we allowed it under our watch. And you know what? I don't believe that patriots did this intentionally. I know that we're good people. And it's not that we were sitting back and being lazy and saying, okay, here, take our kids, you raise them in the schools, teach them what they need to know. And, you know, we have been so busy living the American dream because we're the Americans that are out there every single day, getting up in the morning, feeding our kids their breakfast, taking them to school, going to work, putting in a hard day's work, earning our money, paying our taxes, picking up the kids at school, taking them to their extracurricular things because we want them to be involved, we're being good parents, and then we come home by 7 in the evening, we're fixing dinner, then we're having a brief discussion, watching the news, taking baths, putting the kids to bed, and then going to bed and then getting up and starting all over again. We've been very busy people, and our people are the ones who don't have time. They haven't had time to watch the news. They don't have time to get on the internet and research the information that's being put out there in the news media. And so in the process of being busy living the American dream, we are losing it. We've allowed it to be lost. One day, one issue, one elected official at a time. And so now, what I'm here to do today is to rally the troops because it is not a lost cause. America is not lost. It is not over until it's over. We've lost a battle. But you know what? When I hear people whine and moan and groan about, well, what are we going to do? They've already got our kids. They've got all the money. We can't beat this. All the elected officials up there, they aren't doing what we sent them to do, even the ones we elected. I mean, how are we going to fix this? Short of running for office yourself, what can you do? Well, I'm going to tell you. But in the meantime, the message I want to get to you today is do not feel overwhelmed because you don't have an excuse. I don't have an excuse to feel overwhelmed. You know what? You want to know what overwhelmed is? Go back and read the story of our founding fathers. Those guys were fighting for something that they believed in, something bigger than themselves. You see, they weren't afraid to talk to their neighbors about the truth. They weren't afraid of losing a little money, of making people mad. You want to know what overwhelmed feels like? Try fighting a war outmanned, outarmed, starving to death, traipsing through the snow barefoot. Now, if anybody had an excuse to say, I give up, it was those guys. And yet, they never gave up. Those men had in them what we need in us. A passion for liberty. I call it the spirit of the founding fathers. There was a grit about those men. When I say grit, I mean that characteristic that is in every noble leader in our country who has ever hoisted the American flag upon his bloody shoulders and faced the choice between liberty or death and stared death in the face and spit. That's the kind of grit I'm talking about. And that's where we have to get to, folks. We've got to get that kind of passion. It's got to mean so much to you that you're willing to lay it all on the line, just like they did. They were willing to die for it. Are you? We're whining about, well, if I talk about this at this meeting, it's going to make some people mad. Got to get some backbone. We have to educate our children. We have to educate ourselves. We have to stay on top of the issues. And I realize I'm preaching to the choir. Those of you who are here are getting an education, or you're already educated. You know the issues. I'm watching you respond when people say, do you know what Common Core is? Do you know what this is? Yes, 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 yes. But you're going to have to take it outside of this room, and you've got to talk to those people in your lives who probably don't want to hear it. You've got to get uncomfortable, get out of your comfort zone, and talk about the issues. You've got to talk to your children and your grandchildren. You have to educate them on the truth of what's going on in this country. And as he so eloquently put it, and I'm guilty of this too, but in our country, I've been guilty on my Facebook pages, for example, when I make a post and someone comes on and they start talking in Spanish, and I say, excuse me, but English is the official language in the United States of America. So if you're not going to talk in English on this page, you cannot post a comment on this page because we can't understand what you're saying. I was wrong. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, English is the official language of the United States of America, but the fact is, those Americans are here. Those people are here, and they're voting by the millions. And the left is already reaching out to them. And the reason they're voting by majority on the left is because the right is too busy just talking to ourselves. We're not reaching out to them.
We're not giving them free.
We're not giving them the truth. And I met a man at this gathering who he has a tea party for Latino Americans. And what his mission is to take all the conservative information that we're putting out there and transcribe it in Spanish so that the Latino Americans can understand and hear truth, because they're not hearing it. He's convinced they'll see our way. They'll vote our way if we'll just get the information to them. So the fact is, they're here and they're registered to vote. And if we do not reach them, we are going to continue to lose. And finally, in addition to educating ourselves and educating our children and sharing information with friends, I'm going to ask you to arm yourselves. Because I believe in the phrase armatissimi e liberissimi, and that means most armed, most free. And if we're going to maintain liberty in this country, we've got to have the Second Amendment. We've got to acknowledge it. We have to understand it. We have to make sure our kids understand it. We need to be armed and trained and prepared for whatever comes our way. Because believe me, you ain't seen nothing yet. By the way, ladies, before I finish speaking, ladies in this room, I teach a class all over this country. It's called Armed and Female. Not to discriminate against men, but I have found that most women are like I was at one time, dependent on the man in my life to defend me. And though many women have a gun because their husband said, here, honey, you need to carry this with you in case you ever get in trouble, most of them don't have a clue how to use it, how to clean it, how to change out the magazine, what to do if the gun jams. Well, I will take those women and I train you from A to Z, because I want women to be responsible gun owners. And if push ever comes to shove, and we're back in a war fighting for the constitutional republic that our founding fathers already handed us on a silver platter and we just blew off, the women will be able to fight just like the men. And by the way, final closing thought. Have you ever bought somebody a gift and you were so excited about it? You really worked hard to get them that perfect gift. Spent a lot of money, you looked and looked and looked until you could find it, and then you were so excited to hand it to them because you just knew they were just going to be thrilled to get it. And you hand them that gift and you just wait with anticipation for all those, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I wanted, I'm so happy. And you hand it to them and they unwrap it and they look at it and say, oh, thanks, and put it aside. How do you think our founding fathers would feel if they could see how we have responded to this amazing gift that they handed us? That they laid blood on the line. Many of them died so that we could have that gift. And what have we done with it? It's precious. We need to treat it that way. We need to look at everything that we do in this country and look at the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And if it does not measure up We need to be very sensitive to that and make sure our kids understand that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the very foundation of what made this country great. And right now we have a president who doesn't even want us to have a constitution. He thinks it's an irrelevant document that is no longer necessary in the United States. It's constraining him, I believe. He's constrained by the Constitution. Did you ever think that you would I never thought that I would hear the President of the United States of America make such a statement publicly, proudly. And what do we do about it?
No. Beach.
Folks, we're going to take this country back, but we've got to get out of this reactive mode and get into the proactive mode. And we've got to stand tall, arm ourselves with intellectual information. We've got to share it. We need to arm ourselves physically and take our country back. We will be a formidable force, but you're going to have to be all on board, and you're going to have to give it everything you have, just like our founders did. Thank you.
Okay, so this beautiful lady with her beautiful red hair, my grandma had red hair, I love redheads, I'm a little partial. She will be letting you ask your questions.
What was that, Arms and Females? Is that a website?
Armed and Female, no. Actually, I'm about to create a website. I've already bought the domain for it, called Armed American Woman, and I'm going to transfer it into that. But right now, it's a class called Armed and Female. I have my business card with me. For those of you who came in late, I've got plenty. I want you to have them because it's got my email address and my information on it. I travel all over the country and teach these women's firearms classes. It's a day-long deal. And all you have to do is get groups of women together and say, okay, Jan, we've got 15 to 20 women here. We want you to come and teach this class. You cover my travel expenses, and the women pay a small fee, which covers the training that I have. I've been through a lot of training, firearms training. I'm NRA certified. I will teach you. By the time I finish with the women in your life,
You want on?
they'll be dragging you to the gun shows and the gun stores, and they will outshoot you. They will become excellent marksmen. Yes.
Thank you.
You know that women are actually better shots when they start off than men. And I think it's so important that you let women know that, because women start out with a disproportionate, psychology background here, women start out with a disproportionate fear of shooting and a disproportionate self-consciousness. They think they won't be as good as men. And actually, women, as they're starting, are a much better shot than men as they're starting.
Which is one of the things I deal with in the class. It's called anticipation flinch, and I deal with some of the specific issues that women have related to guns that men don't get. They don't understand, but I deal with them. So.
May I make a comment here? The first thing that Fidel Castro did in Cuba was take away all the guns.
That's right.
That is why millions of people have been assassinated, millions, when they gave away their weapons. Barack Obama has just signed the United Nations gun control law. Our Senate is not going to approve it. All right, and what this lady is doing is absolutely right. If the United States gives up its gun, we're done. We must keep our guns and buy more.
Buy more. And ammunition.
Get ammo.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So, one of the things I think that the left does so effectively, that the right absolutely, for lack of a better word, sucks at, is defending themselves. When the media savages Sarah Palin, I mean, just savages her, the entire right side of the political spectrum is silent. When Rand Paul stands up, you have half the right, you have even, I'm not going to say, we all know who, calls him an idiot. And you never see that. And the left goes from the most radical Marxist all the way over to someone who, would be just left of center. And they all stand united. And we do more damage to ourselves than they do. How do we stop that? How do we stop trying to get, we look for the perfect instead of the unitedness. How do we do that?
Can I address that? One of the things, my greatest concern about the conservative movement right now is the fact that we are so split. We've got the Tea Party, we've got Republicans, we've got the establishment Republicans, then we have the libertarians. okay? And one of the things I've seen on my social media pages, thank goodness, I've been able to hold on to all those folks. Okay, because what we've got to do is stop the infighting and stop nitpicking each other and come together on the common principles of fiscal responsibility, limited government, on social issues. That's where we're losing a lot of the young people. I'm so glad you brought the young people up. The reason we're losing them on social issues is because of what she said. We've turned them over to the government indoctrination system in our public schools. But we can win those people over. I think we can win some of those people back, some of the younger generation back. But we've got to stop the infighting and we've got to stop the splitting. And one of the things we must do, for example, I did a speech at an event, at a Republican Assembly event not long ago. And the guy who organized the event was hardline conservative. His 30-year-old son, whom he made come there, was conservative. He was in college Republicans when he was younger, but he moved away from the Republican Party, and now he's voting Democrat. And so I pulled him aside, and his father was embarrassed. His father, every time he would try to speak, his father would say, he was afraid he was going to offend me. And I said, no, I want to listen to what he has to say, because I want to know, why did you leave us? What is it? How can we reach the people of your generation? What's important to you? He said, you're not inclusive. Unless you're pro-life, you can't be in the Republican Party. You can't be in the conservative movement. If you speak out, if you say, okay, I'm pro-choice, then you're chastised, you're shunned. If you're not necessarily for gay marriage, but you're saying, I really don't care what those people do in their bedroom. I personally believe in God, and I believe that marriage is between a man and woman. But he said, if you are a Republican and you say, I don't care on social issues, those issues are not that important to me, then you get shunned. He said, we've got to stop making certain issues the issue in the party and say, okay, but where can we all find common ground? Fiscal responsibility, limited government, those core issues. If we can all say, okay, we may not agree here on the social issues, we may not agree there on that, but in the middle, we can all agree that we want a constitutional republic. And I think we're going to have to get to that mindset of stopping beating up on each other and finding the common ground to pull everybody together.
I want to add to that too. I've watched as I live in California, and because there are so few conservatives in California, we tend to do less of that, the infighting that Jan is talking about. And, I think there are two things that contribute to this. One, I'm going to talk about in my speech this afternoon. I hope you all can be there, about taking on the culture, restoring honor to our culture. We have to go right to the heart of it. And I believe there are two reasons we don't. One is because of the infighting that Jan mentioned. But the other reason, I meant to say, in California, I've noticed that they'll have events, and they will call the events something like this. And challenge you guys here now. They'll say, this is the moderate Republican women, Tea Party, and Libertarian group.
There you go.
You're talking some unity right there. See, and when I lived in Missouri and Alabama, we were all conservatives and we were all Christians, so we thought. It was sometimes a little bit lukewarm, to be completely honest with you, and we did a lot more deciding, well, you believe in the exceptions on abortion, so you don't fit over here in my pro-life club, and so no, you know what, this is war. Right. Recognize your enemies and recognize your friends.
There you go.
They're your friends. If they call themselves a Republican, even if you hate Karl Rove, and I'm right there behind you, they're still on your side in what is a war. It's not a war for the spirit of our party. We'll get to that once we have a country to reestablish it. Keep fighting for your platforms, though, that said. But I want to say one other thing. This is the other reason I think conservatives get really discouraged, and it is the pragmatic party versus the principle party. They are all about pragmatics, whatever wins. You really believe in what you're saying, and you're trying to win on principle, and you know that truth is self-evident, and you can't understand what is the matter with that guy, that he just can't see the doggone truth. And surely if I just keep telling him the truth, then he's going to get it. They get it. They don't say, we're paying the taxes. They say, here's your check. They don't say, we want the illegals out of here. They say, here's your amnesty. Bring your family and friends. Are you getting the picture? The mental message to the other side is so much more pragmatically based, and we're still trying to fight on principle. Have your principle. go fight pragmatically. And this is the very last thing I want to say on this because I think it's such an important concept. And again, I'm going to address this in my speech here in just a little while. But we can't be afraid to take the bruises. Are you really a warrior? Are you really surrendered to God? Ask yourself those questions, because if you're going to be preaching to your choir, talking to your school, speaking at your tea party, pastoring your church, mothering your children, not one bit of that is being a warrior. War by definition is conquering an enemy. That means you are going into their territory. How much time in your individual, and I had to ask myself this question, you're going to really hear my story this afternoon. How much of your time, because God's going to slap you upside the head with this like he did me. I'm not so wise here. I just got whacked hard. God is going to ask you, how much time did you spend? When's the last time you talked to a gay person? When's the last time you talked to an occupier? You ever smelled them? When's the last time you really got down and dirty with someone who philosophically disagrees with you straight down the line? And when's the last time you did it without being afraid to be wrong, humiliated, bruised, bloodied, or the one we really all fear? Do you know what it is? Made a fool of. That's what we're really all afraid of here. So God's own fool, don't forget who that was, and that's what we're supposed to be emulating. And he wasn't hanging out with all of us. Now this is where you come to get fortified, just like you're doing, and I commend every single one of you. Please don't take this as a lecture. I'm just honestly learning as I go. I tell my kids, put on my tombstone, she died trying, because that's pretty much going to be my legacy. So, but I am telling you, this is where you get your ammo. That is where the war is, and we have to go in. Go ahead, who's next? Oh, sorry, did you have something to say?
May I just add onto that real quick? I want to remind us too, in engaging the left and what they're doing versus what we're doing. In the words of Jesus, he said, be shrewd or wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. We need to learn how to be shrewd and how to be wise. You know, we want to be so open and so transparent, but be very prayerful about how to operate shrewdly. And there's an excellent book by Brad Bright titled God is the Issue, and it will train you on how to reframe the debate. And one example that he uses is when he prays in the name of Jesus and someone comes up and says, I am offended that you prayed in the name of Jesus. And he will turn that right back around and say, well, number one, I'm offended you're trying to censor me. That's very un-American. And number two, what do you have against Jesus? Now, he just reframed that debate and used the word censorship, which the left hates. And we need to learn how to be shrewd and wise and play that same game.
Amen.
God is the issue.
Different swing on this. I was there when so many of the parties were going on. When we started the tea parties, it was so exciting. I couldn't wait to get out. Every Saturday morning, we'd look in the newspapers to see whether it was one, or we'd listen to the radio stations. And it was so powerful. It was great. We'd show up in the numbers. We'd be out there sometimes 1,000, sometimes 200, sometimes 300, sometimes 2,000. And then I feel like the leadership that got involved in the Tea Party took us underground. And I feel like, now you talk about the Tea Party, you talk about the things of the past. Now, I know a lot of you are involved, and I am too. And I read all my legislation. I read everything. I do everything I can. But I can't see the passion when it seems like it's been shut down by our own people.
And when you say your own people, I'm sorry, just to clarify, do you mean Tea Party leaders or you mean GOP leaders?
Yeah, there's nothing for us to do. What has happened is we have taken a group of people who were on fire and made us participate. We're watchers, we're observers. We're not participants.
We got to move to Brevard County. We got the passion.
I do a lot of different things as far as reading the legislation and doing the different things. But when I look around, I don't see it. I don't see the chances like there were. To a part, we started our own group and started another thing, but we couldn't call it a Tea Party. Because we started going out there calling it a Tea Party, we said, well, what are you doing and that kind of stuff. So my My thing here is that I know that just this group being here, I know right now there's a tremendous amount of passion for just this group being here right now. And I look at it and say, we need a place to go. When everything, and something happens, what happened on tax day? Where we were at? Nobody's heard from us. Where were we at when anything comes up, any legislation? They pick on Sarah Palin or they do something. We don't rise up anymore. I feel like we've just been kind of squashed in our own selves. And I feel like the Republican Party is doing it to us as much as anybody else.
Okay, can I address that? A couple things that I'd like to say. I would recommend in any Tea Party that you employ a representative form of government within it. And the second thing is many of these individuals who began forming Tea Parties, many of them, that was their first time ever in a position of leadership. Not everyone has handled that well, but we do need to give some grace, come alongside, be kind, and again, employ that representative form of government even within our Tea Party and join in there. Regarding the Republican Party, I recommend that you join your local Republican Party.
Infiltrate.
That's right.
I call it, what is the word? What is the word I use? Influence.
Yes.
I use the word influence. Join and influence. It's they don't get us scared when you're there to influence. It's infiltrate. I am now the state committee woman for my county, which puts me on the board of the RPOF for the state of Florida. And believe me, I don't have a lot of friends there because I ask questions. I ask them to follow their own rules. Some people will say I stir the pot. But you know what? Why can't we have a little competition? We get a better product. Why don't we employ the belief in the free market system that we say we want to support even within our primaries and our candidates? So get involved in that way as well. And regarding the party, the rallies on the street corners, I would say that a lot of that passion has gone into, in a sense, not necessarily underground, but we're getting more involved. We are taking appointments within our county. We are joining the party.
Lost. We got beat. We got slaughtered.
Well,
Because nobody did anything. We didn't have anything.
Well, that is your point. That is your perspective, and you have every right to it. I have a different perspective. I see a lot of people engaging. I see in Lake County we have a ton of educational patriot groups going on in Lake County, and believe me, the people that are signing up to run for office, they're getting interviewed all the time by different groups because we want to know who you are, what you believe in, what you think. I asked a gentleman running for State House the other day, define federalism. He gave me the definition of statism. I said, I think you need to go back and look that up again. You just gave me the definition of the opposite. So, there are folks getting involved. If it isn't where you are, then you be the change that you want to see.
Frank, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that in Miami, we do have tea parties. We have the Miami Tea Party that was extremely active during the 2012 campaign. They were out every Saturday in front of a major park with a lot of traffic the whole afternoon with signs. They were in the radio and TV. Rolando, we have a patriot organization on the Tea Party, but we work with the Miami Tea Party. We work with many organizations throughout the United States. And many Hispanics, are conservative, and they may not know it, but they are for strong families. They are religious people. They've been misled, they've been misinformed. Susana Martinez spoke at the Republican National Conference. She said she was a Democrat all her life until she realized that her conservative values were Republican. And she's now the Republican governor of New Mexico. And we're Brian Sandoval, a Republican governor of Nevada. So there is hope for the future, and there's a lot of pessimism, as you're expressing, but we need a new awakening. We need to ask God Almighty to help us.
Amen.
And with His help, we will take back our country.
Gina, I have
three more questions about how much more, we have three more people that had their hand up before, about how much longer.
Well, we end at 2:15, so
No, 3 o'clock.
I'm sorry.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
We got 20
Wrong
minutes.
panel, sorry.
We got 20 minutes.
I'm over here doing a different panel.
He was next, Rolando was next, and I have two over here, and then I will take some more from, okay.
Yeah, it was next.
Okay.
Right.
We got out of order because we're trying
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just switch it, let him go first since he's standing, then we'll do that, and then I have Sully and Alice over here, and then we have time.
Well, I was born in Cuba, and I lost my country over 50 years ago. Okay? To communism and socialism. And they did the same things that this administration is doing to us right now. They indoctrinated our children. They took our guns away, okay? And they changed history from us, and many other things. And they killed a lot of our people. Okay? And so, back in 2009, a group of Cubans and myself formed probably the first Cuban Tea Party. We call it Patriot Group. And we call it Bear Witness, because we bear witness to what happened in our country. Okay? And so we've been trying to tell people what's going on. And one important thing that we need to talk about is not just small government or economy or things like that. It is important to let the population know that this is an overtaking of our country by socialism, Marxism, and communism.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I have a question from Frank. In addition to that, I believe that Islamism is involved in it.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely. Barack Obama is a closet Muslim.
That's right.
I mean, if you look at his entire life, he's been associated with radical Palestinians in Chicago. His best professor at Columbia University was Edward Said, S-A-I-D, who ended his life when he had terminal cancer throwing stones at the Israeli army in the western territories of Palestine. And he's been associated his entire life with Palestinian radicals, with Marxists, from the time he was in the 5th grade. Of course, his father was also a communist. So I think the Republican Party have made a terrible mistake, particularly Romney, by not bringing the ideology of Obama into place in the 2004 campaign. That was a major mistake. And the same thing with McCain. He hardly even talked about Reverend Wright, the communist preacher that he had, tied to Islam, with Farrakhan. Obama participated in that march of 1 million men organized by Farrakhan. I mean, these are the things that people are unaware of. We have a Marxist president who is also Muslim. More than likely he was born in Mombasa, Kenya, as his grandmother stated one time. And the American people are completely unaware of this. Our labor unions are infiltrated by communists. George Meany, AFL-CIO, was an anti-communist. The one we have now is a Marxist. The Service Employee International Union gave Barack Obama $145 million, and the entire union are Marxists. Every single one of them is a Marxist. Our colleges and universities are full of Marxist professors. Our social studies teachers in secondary schools, if they're not socialists, they're leftists. I know, I belong to the National Council of Social Studies. I belong to the Florida Council of Social Studies. I was a social studies professor. I'm sad, but this is why we're talking about indoctrination, common core, or a violation of the U.S. Constitution, the 10th Amendment. We cannot have a federal curriculum. That violates the Constitution. And the only time the Republicans stood up in the U.S. Senate and sued Barack Obama when he did appointments when they were in session. And they won in an appeal court. And now Obama is taking that to the Supreme Court. But each and every violation of the Constitution by Barack Obama, the Republican Party in Congress should have sued the president. So you're violating the Constitution. That's right. And this common core violates the Constitution. And it's unconstitutional and has to be stopped. And all the SARs that he appointed, they have the same thing as a cabinet. They're more power than cabinet officers. That's another violation of the Constitution. Forcing religious schools to give their employees an insurance that covers abortion, sterilization, that violates the First Amendment of the Constitution. And it's just one violation after another one. And as Republicans in Congress, only one time have they sued the president. He needs to be impeached. But if we cannot impeach him, at least sue him in court. And they only did it once and they won in an appeal court.
He needs to be arrested and taken out in cuffs for treason.
Absolutely. Well, the board member is David Congress.
Can I respond to the gentleman over here just a moment? I forgot, I meant to mention this in my speech. You were talking about feeling disenfranchised and feeling like that your Tea Party, at least in your area, was just not active anymore. They were just
I just feel it's been put underground.
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of good stuff going on. I just feel like
And that may be happening in a number of Tea Parties because it is grassroots, and it's just human beings in charge, and human beings are not infallible. But let me tell you what you can do. There is a social media network called Tea Party Community Network, and it is like the alternative to Facebook. And conservatives from all over this country, not only Tea Party, but Republican, Libertarians, are gathering there. And there also are state hubs. There's a state hub for every state, and you can create your profile, join your state hub, and then get actively involved in issues related to your state and your patriot groups. So that's a great place for you to hang out, especially if you're on Facebook and you're tired of all the liberal bias and the hand slapping and the deleting of your posts and all the things that we experience on Facebook. Tea Party Community Network. Go there and create a profile, and be sure to send me a friend request when you get there, because I'm there.
Okay, I'm gonna get you in trouble now, because I'm gonna criticize a whole bunch of you, okay? I've been in the Tea Party for 3.5 years. I've gone out and given speeches, I do a radio show, I do a whole bunch of things. And one of the things that you said over here is the whole issue about education and argument. If you don't know what's right, how are you gonna convince anybody that something's wrong? The biggest criticism in the Tea Party today is there is no sense of discipleship going on. Somebody comes into the Tea Party and they're going to go out and wave a flag and they learn some buzzwords, illegal immigration or Common Core and these things. But when they really get in the quarter, they don't know a damn thing about it. And worse, they don't know a damn thing about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence or other founding documents. Now, I don't need somebody to come in here and tell me, rah, 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 go get them. I want to talk to somebody that's really interested in the basics so that we've got skilled people who can go out and fight. And I'm sick and tired of people saying, in 2 years, we're going to be in charge. No, you're not, because you don't have anybody with any skills to be in charge. You don't have anybody with any skills to run a decent campaign that's going to beat your competition. So you better think about how we got here. It took us 100 years to get here, and it's going to take you 100 years to get back on the other side. Now, why are you kidding yourself? Does it make you feel better? You sleep at night? Well, you certainly shouldn't sleep at night. You should worry every day, what don't I know? Can you argue with somebody, for example, without getting mad at them? Because that's our biggest vulnerability. Somebody says to me, are you in the Tea Party? Yeah, I'm in the Tea Party. I hate the Tea Party. You people are mad at everybody. It's true. It's true. We come off as angry. But you know, our founding fathers were the great debaters. Well, the best debaters is Parliament in Britain. They know how to argue. But our founding fathers learned because they said, if you can't give me the basis, the evidence for your position, then you're disqualified. Do any of our legislators, are they educated on the issues? No. No. We just came back from 2 days up in Tallahassee. 2 days we were there and we contacted our elected representatives. And I walked around and I looked and I said, you know what? I was here for 2 days and it's 120 miles up here and I'm an old man, I'm going home. But everywhere I saw, there was lobbyists everywhere and they're there full time and they're talking against the things that I'm for.
Yes.
Now, why are you worried about getting somebody new in there when the system that puts them in there puts them into a position in which the first thing that happens to them is they're indoctrinated? so that they're taught to use the same system as the guy before them that failed. This is kind of like football. If you can't block and tackle, you're never going to score any points. You know, I don't know what's the matter with people that they say, well, you know, I'm going to hope, I'm going to pray to God, and God's going to give us a revelation. I'm a Christian, okay? But when I pray to God, He says, get out there and do the hard work. Do you have any wounds on you? Do you have any broken arms? Well, what are you laying in bed for? Get up. Get away from that television. Can you get up in front of somebody and argue about the strengths of the Constitution? Can you? Are you having trouble talking to your kids? I have so many people I know that they say, you know what? I can't even talk to my kids. They're all liberal. Well, what the hell's the matter with you? Don't you know how to argue? Can't you provide the evidence for them, and can't you expose the fact that they don't have any basis?
Sir, what specifically was your criticism of me in this panel? I heard you say that you want to criticize all of us, and I would like to know specifically how I have failed you
I'd like to hear you
today.
talk about what's wrong with what we're doing and how we need to change, rather than say, rah, rah, keep going. Change your skills, change your tactics, learn how to do it the right way.
Education.
Education. Forget about getting the next level.
Which county do you live in?
I'm down in Highlands County, a little country boy.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can only speak to, I know what we're doing in our county, in Lake County. I know what's been going on in Orange County. And we've had several classes teaching the Constitution. We have educational forums all the time. As I mentioned a moment ago, in our county, we are becoming educated citizens, and we do engage intelligently, and we do try to do that, and I think we've done it fairly successful without having to raise our voice or react, but we would prefer to respond intelligently and also with that shrewd and gentle as a dove demeanor.
Are you in?
But I will say this.
Are you in your churches? Are you in your schools? In the middle of the schools, are you in there?
I will.
Because Common Core is.
Okay, if I can respond. When I first began speaking, I quoted a scripture that there are a variety of gifts, a variety of ministries, and a variety of effects. The Greek word used there for variety is multifaceted. There are many, and I do believe we are all called to different ministries within this battle. And so I am not going to disrespect someone else's ministry, because I'm going to trust that if they are a fellow believer, a brother and sister in Christ who's being led to do the work that they're doing, God bless them, and I will support them, and I will not argue with them. Just as I would hope that they would bless me in the ministry that the Lord is calling me in. And if your ministry is to shout on the street corner and that's where you feel God is calling you, by all means do it, and God bless you. But I think that we have to recognize that there is going to be a variety of ways that we come together on various fronts to fight this battle. We're not all going to be called to the same task.
And on the issue of that you mentioned about us educating, are we just rah-rahing the troops, sir? I would like for you to know that I walked away from a plush 3-year contract as an anchor for a liberal news station, CBS in New Orleans. I was working my way up to network. I walked away from a 3-year contract so that I could start my own media company and post truth to the American people. Every single day of my life, sir, I put information out to the American people that I have carefully researched on all the issues that are taking place in this country right now. I'm doing my best to educate the American people. The fact that I gave a rah-rah speech today is because that's what I was asked to do, because these people are already educated on the issues. My responsibility today was to help pick up the mentality and get everybody fired up again. They don't need me to explain the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm keeping people on top of the issues. And also, sir, what you just did here today is exactly what that gentleman was talking about. We have too many people like you who spend their time tearing down our own people. Exactly. Instead of, like she said, all of us bring different gifts to the table. Today, my gift was to rally the troops. But every single day, I'm out there educating people on the truth about what's happening in our country, bringing them news and information, not propaganda. So the fact that you criticize me here today because I gave a rah-rah speech, sir, I find it very insulting.
I apologize if I hurt your feelings.
No, you didn't hurt my feelings. You insulted
No,
me.
because what I said is I wasn't criticizing Jan Martin. I was criticizing the fact that you
You
weren't
said all
honest
of
with
us.
the people, that you're not telling them what's wrong with what we're doing.
There's
I'm
no way-
dishonest
sir,
with
sir,
the people?
I'm moderating, and I'm going to tell you, it's just time for you to sit down. I really do appreciate your passion. And it's honestly, what I love about the Tea Party is that we are out there with all of our passion, and it's palpable. It's what the Republican Party has always been missing. I've been a lifelong Republican. My husband was a Republican senator, and they had no passion. They were dead in the water, and I knew we couldn't start winning until we reinfused some passion. What you've seen here today is passion. From you, what we've seen is passion. But the circular fire, I agree, is destructive, and we're just not going to end on that. So I am going to end on this, and it's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, and we all will, who comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or without some shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms of the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at best knows in one end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least while he fails, will be daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. That's who you are. Thank you for being here today.